Hey guys, it's Jack. I wanted to let you know that we're starting a new push for subscriptions here on Human Events Daily. So make sure that when you're listening to this podcast, you hit subscribe, you download it, and you share it with 5 of your friends. Make sure they're all going and downloading as well, because we need to get the signal out as much as possible. Look, we've done so much over the past couple of years since this show started, and we're only going to do so much more. Let's get it. Never ever stop fighting, no matter what.
We will achieve American greatness, and we are just getting started.
Welcome back to Human Events Daily. I'm Bo Davidson, in for Jack Posobiec, who is in Provo, Utah. He's there for the trial, the preliminary hearing of Tyler Robinson. We'll have more on that tonight. We expect for Jack to be joining Kevin, but we also have Kevin Posobiec right now, as well as Benny Ray Harmony. Before the break, we were talking about leftism, the Second Amendment, and some of the ironies, the twist of ironies that are happening with the Second Amendment. Benny, I want to come to you simply because we have been discussing this with respect to the left, and Democrats want to be the first people to take away your Second Amendment right. But yet, ironically, it is many people who identify as Democrats or liberals that seem to be doing a higher proportionate share of the killing.
No, exactly. And Bo, I was talking to you earlier. There was just a recent situation that went viral on social media where this staffer for a Democrat in Wisconsin posted a video saying that the new mantra is kill your local Republicans. So I find it quite hypocritical and quite funny how the people that say guns should be banned, guns, no one should be allowed to have them, are the ones doing the killing most of the time. I'm not saying all, this is a party versus party thing, but it comes down to it where, okay, well, how many Republicans, people that identified as Republicans have publicly assassinated someone or tried to. So it's just, I want to open that discussion because it's quite interesting. And I know Kevin has some good, input on that as well.
Yeah, Kevin, there's a high degree of vitriol among the left, and that vitriol has, it's one thing to be angry. It's one thing to want to see grievances addressed in some way. It's another thing to take that to a different level, to take that to a violent level and to kill people. So, but that's something that has been recurrent. We've seen this now. I mean, we've seen this with the president. What is it, 3 assassination attempts now? We've seen this obviously with Charlie, which unfortunately was successful. We're still putting those pieces together in the aftermath of it. But speak to that.
Sure. So quite simply, I mean, argument is the last line of defense. Okay. After the First Amendment fails, after one can no longer argue successfully, that's when the violence starts. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so with the Second Amendment, I mean, it's important. I mean, Charlie was a champion of the First Amendment. He loved debate. He loved arguing with people. It's like, against this indoctrination, like we're saying. And so the argument will be, guns don't kill people, people do. Right. So like the mainstream media will say, okay, this is just a, mental disability, et cetera, and that's been used as a argument against taking away guns and yeah. I guess ideally repealing the Second Amendment, but also in particular to be more objective and technical in this case with Tyler Robinson. I'm reading here again, just a refresher. The weapon was a vintage Mauser Model 98 bolt-action rifle, okay? And it was his grandfather's rifle with no serial number, okay? So might have slipped through the cracks a little bit. So again, gun grabbers would be cracked down on that as well. Yeah. So I definitely believe that will be a push.
Okay. We do have attorney on the line right now, Sam Mirajovsky, on Zoom with us. He's a partner at Sam & Ash LLP. Sam, you got me?
I do. I sure do.
Sam, we don't have a ton of time left, just short of 5 minutes, but tell me just from a legal perspective what you've seen thus far, just your general observations of how the court proceedings have gone, the objectivity of the judge, how you've seen him dismiss and overrule a lot of the defense's objections. Just give us kind of your legal assessment thus far.
Yeah, just real quick, the judge is, I think, doing everything correctly here. I mean, he's playing it by the book. One of the big issues here is, and this is a preliminary hearing, right? This is probable cause. This is very, very low threshold. And, there's all this evidence, and the defense is trying to say that there's, a lot of it's hearsay, that it's secondhand evidence. And the fact of the matter is that Utah, something that's, peculiar to Utah's system, they have a very broad allowance in these preliminary hearings for this hearsay evidence. So things like, what information, for example, that was told to two officers who then put that information into the police report. And the judge was letting it, for the most part, letting it in. And it seems to me to be absolutely appropriate, at this stage. So what I'm seeing is all basically normal and par for the course.
Well, let me ask you this. In reading this NBC News article, I know they didn't have Twiggs testify today, but it says prosecutors moved to quash the subpoena for Twiggs, saying they intended to use a recorded interview in which Twiggs is alleged to have told investigators that Robinson confessed to the crime, concealed a weapon, disposed of clothing, and told Twiggs not to contact law enforcement. If that gets in, what else do you need to see? I mean, I'm just, I know that trials are bigger than that, but if that piece is admitted, what case does the defense have?
Well, they don't have much of a case, and remember, it establishes two things, right? First of all, it establishes the intent element, and it also helps, I think, bolster the case for the aggravated murder, which here is predicated on endangering lives at the event, but also the political element. So, to me, this is a very crucial piece of evidence. I do not envision a universe in which it doesn't get in. And remember, too, Twiggs can be called into court later to testify, and can be questioned against this document and against this recording. So, I think it's going to get in.
Do you think we see, as Kevin and I were discussing earlier, a shorter than 5-day period of this preliminary trial to move to a jury trial? Or do we think we see all 5 days of it?
Well, it's tough to tell right now. I mean, they're getting through it in a pretty fast clip. And again, I mean, the likelihood it could go. There's enormous amount of evidence. So, I could see perhaps all 5 days, but nobody should interpret this being lengthy to mean that in any way that the prosecution's case is weak, right? There's a perception sometimes, it's going long. It means the defense really has something. No, there's just a lot of evidence here. And the judge wants to go through it thoroughly.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is a good judge doesn't want any appealable issues. And so going through it thoroughly, giving the defense their day in court, allowing every argument to be made, while it's frustrating sometimes for us to watch, helps shore this up and prevent any of it being tossed down the road.
Sam, we only have just short of a minute. I just want to, as I asked Benny and Kevin earlier, any observations on the demeanor of Tyler Robinson that you've seen? We've seen him seem like ice is pouring through his veins. So what does that say? Does it give us any indication of his mental status? But we've got 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, look, the guy just looks terrifying. I'm looking at him, and I can't even imagine what Erica's going through and the family's going through. But he's not. The jury isn't in the room. The jury hasn't even been impaneled yet. So we may see a different Tyler Robinson if when confronted by a jury at trial. It'll be interesting to compare.
Sam Mirjovsky, thank you so much for your expertise, and Kevin Posobiec and Benny, thank you so much. Make sure to
Never, ever stop fighting, no matter what.
We will achieve American greatness. We are just getting started.
Welcome back to Human Events Daily. I'm Bo Davidson, filling in for Jack Posobiec while he attends the live trial of Tyler Robinson, the preliminary trial. That's about a 5-day trial that will determine whether this will go to a jury trial. I've got Kevin Posobiec on hand in Provo, Utah, as well as Benny Ray Harmony in the D.C. area. Kevin, right before we went to break, we talked about how the national media may try to downplay some of the leftist activism of Robinson and his partner. I'm reading from NBC News, too. As well, it says that on Monday, I guess it was past Monday, State District Judge Tony Graff Jr. granted prosecutors' motion to quash a subpoena brought by defense attorneys to have Lance Twiggs, his partner, testify live in Utah at the preliminary hearing on July 6. Twiggs was living with Robinson at the time of the killing as a romantic partner, but court referred to him as a Mr., but defense attorneys have previously referred to him as transgender and goes by Luna. So we know that is a storyline, that is a component of this. How does that play into the broader picture? You seem to indicate that the mainstream media, who of course sympathizes with the left and has a leftist lens and bias, will downplay that aspect or the leftist aspects of Robinson and Lance Twiggs?
I do, because this is the worst case scenario, right? Like Charlie and Jack and many others have been on record for saying, like, look at the crimes that are committed by Antifa types, by these furry, like, drugged out weirdos, on college campuses. College campuses are where, people's minds can be molded in one way or another, and that's a thing that Charlie held so dear to his heart. He knew where the battleground was, and that's on college campuses, okay? And sometimes, especially classifying these places as indoctrination camps for liberal woke ideologies, these people also get involved in, who knows what kind of drugs or sex kind of sexual fantasies or just weird LGBTQ relationships these days. So you tie all that together, and he's doing this stuff with Lance Twiggs, and so it is kind of interesting how they could not subpoena Lance to come and testify one way or the other. That's very interesting. So on the left, the mainstream will say, oh, well, it's just normalized. They'll downplay it and normalize it, Bo. That's what we're up against, really, in not just colleges, but, you see it with these anti-ICE protests and these, pride parades. Like, they just try and do it over and over and over just to normalize it, make it okay, and it's not okay. It's not okay.
No, it's not at all. And you bring a great point, Kevin, because when you think about the circumstances surrounding this and who allegedly did it, who his partner was, however you're going to think of it, that community can tend to be very violent. And we've seen this. I mean, historically speaking, this is this is not subjective. This is an objective reality that we have seen this community, either mental health reasons, hormonal reasons, who knows what. But there is a faction there, and that there is a psychological component to taking a certain ideology and making that violent, and making it certainly something that causes murder. So speak to that, Kevin.
Absolutely, and I'd add on too that there's studies that homosexual relationships and lesbian relationships also correlate to a increase in domestic violence issues too. So there we have that, okay, and so we're talking about all that, okay, like maybe somebody could have the freedom to be that way, but then when you start getting into the violence part, that becomes a problem for society. And in this case, being able to, bring a gun onto a college campus and shoot somebody that you don't like because you don't want to talk to them because they're giving you the truth about, your circumstances. They don't like it. And Charlie said that famously too. It's like when the conversation ends, that's when the violence starts. And that is not what the mainstream media wants to see. So therefore, because this is evidence of that happening, they're going to try and downplay it or normalize it or write it off like, oh, or they'll just downplay, hey, maybe he had he's an exception. Maybe he did have some mental difficulties. That's why he wrote those things on those bullets, and he didn't really mean it or something, or maybe there's just not organized movement, against Republicans and conservatives and anybody who loves America. I saw that in Minneapolis myself with the anti-ICE protesters. Just all kinds of very violent rhetoric, and we're going to see it in an uptick. I mean, it's kind of a tangent, but towards the midterms as well. But these No Kings rally, these No Kings protests, these indivisible protests, they're being funded and they're organizing, and they're being pushed and donated to by who, Lord knows who. So we have all that. It's being funded now. It's like, I don't know, maybe in the 60s, 70s, you'd have like a small community of homosexual people, but now it's being actively funded by the left and these Soros types individuals. Okay, so the left does not want that to be exposed. So that's why they'll downplay it.
That's absolutely true. Before we go to break, I just do want to mention that tonight we do have some special coverage from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. It's a 2-hour block. We've got from 8 to 9 it'll be Andrew Colvette and team covering, of course, the case. And then from 9 to 10 will be a special edition of Human Events live from Provo, Utah. Kevin, I presume that you'll probably be a part of that as well. And we'll be getting some more live updates following the trial. So I do want to mention for those that are watching right now, since we don't have Jack, that we will have some live coverage from 8 to 10 p.m. tonight as a wrap-up of some of the coverage daily that we're getting. So let's take a quick break, and we will be right back with more Human Events Daily.
Never, ever stop fighting, no matter what.
We will achieve American greatness, and we are just getting started.
Never, ever stop fighting, no matter what.
We will achieve American greatness, and we are just getting started.
Welcome back to Human Events Daily. I'm Bo Davidson, filling in briefly for Jack Posobiec because Jack is in the courtroom at the trial, a preliminary hearing of Tyler Robinson out in Provo, Utah. We hope to have Jack at some point, but we do have Kevin Posobiec along with us, as well as Benny Harmony in the D.C. area. Guys, we talked just briefly before about the fact that there may be enough evidence hopefully presented in the case that it may not last all 5 days, and also the fact that the defense has been just trying to object, and the judge has been overruling. So I do want to take a look at SOT real quick, SOT 2, which I believe the judge is talking about graphic exhibits, if we could take a look at that.
The court's thought about this issue in regards to publication of exhibits. Obviously, the court will entertain all motions before any, but after considering it, here's the 2 points that I wish to address. In regards to the exhibits, there is benefit to publication of certain exhibits, but I also do not, and this is going to the camera operator, do not want them to be displayed on TV. I believe it is important that the parties know that the exhibits are being viewed by the judge in real time and in open court. However, what I will do is have the monitor placed against that wall to reduce the possibility of it being broadcast. And so on the exhibits that the court grants to be published in court, and not going to Mr. Novak's point, not to be given copies to, and the court is trying to be mindful that if it's shown on TV, that's essentially giving a copy to.
So Kevin and Benny, we'll start with Kevin first. This idea of graphic exhibits, that telling the public that the judge will see them, but the public will not. What's the thought process on that, Kevin? And is that a fair line of reasoning that the judge is exhibiting there?
I think it's a fair line of reasoning. Again, we have so much evidence of video and whatnot that's good for the Judge Tony Graff to be refreshed on what's being presented, things like the campus, even the screwdriver that was found on the rooftop was also being presented today as well as evidence. And it's advantageous to him because they want to be as clear-cut as possible and get all the high-resolution photos, whatever they can, to be presented here, because this is where the prosecution really shines, is bringing all this forth. And keep in mind too, this area of Provo is more red. So unlike, if this were to have happened in Salt Lake City or, Philadelphia or New York City, the prosecution would have a harder time compared to the defense. And we have such a travesty of judges across the nation in so many other subjects today. But thankfully, here in Provo, this judge is more conservative, and he is going to go through things judiciously, meticulously, and also modernly, which is using digital formats. So he can have that. It does seem modern. It does seem a little different, but I mean, it's 2026, so we should be using everything that we can.
Yeah, no question about that. And Benny, just in terms of what you've seen from the judge thus far, do you see fairness? Do you see objectivity? I mean, ultimately, in any trial, you want, the Lady Justice is supposed to be blind. That's why they had the scales tipped in such a way that things should be equal and fair. I think there's certainly an amount of public interest that this serves. People need to be paying attention to this case. It is important that we understand the minutia of it and understand that it is done fairly. I mean, if I'm the prosecution, I believe I would be sitting pretty. You have a lot of very compelling evidence. At this point, what does the defense have other than trying to object to things? I don't know really what they could even defend at this point.
No, absolutely. And, with watching this just this morning, it kind of takes me back to the Kyle Rittenhouse case, if you guys remember that. Mm-hmm. And you remember that judge. And he was very fair to each side, at least in my opinion. He told the defense when they were being wrong. He told the prosecution when they were being wrong. And so far, I really like the attitude of this judge. I think he's very calm, and you can tell he's really thinking, and he's really looking into this, and he's taking time before he responds, and he's making sure that he's thinking of all the parties included, not just one. And so I think that this is going to be a pretty fair trial. I really do think so. If this pretrial is any, if we can look at that and if this does go to bigger, a jury trial, I think it could go very well. And, like you said, I don't know what the defense has at this point. I think they're going to continue to object and continue to find ways to try to throw the prosecution off their game. But so far, I think this judge is great. And I think he has been great since day one. He said good morning to Erica. He said good morning to Tyler Robinson. And I think he's operating very, very well for a judge.
Kevin, how do you think that the mainstream media is going to cover this? We know how Rav is going to cover it. We have very, very, it's personal, of course, for us. But it's also, there's an objectivity to it, too, which is the man was gunned down in cold blood, and what he represented was freedom and liberty and conversation and dialogue. It's something everyone should be interested in. But in your opinion, and what you've seen thus far, how do you think major media outlets are going to cover it? Are they going to give it the attention that it rightly deserves, or do you think that they'll shelve it and sideline it for something else?
Well, that's a great question, and it's an understatement. That, I mean, again, this is a legendary figure, Charlie Kirk here, and it is personal. I mean, between my brother and I and the whole Rav family. So it's very personal, but at the same time, this is part of what I learned during the Nancy Guthrie investigation that I was in Tucson, Arizona, where there's only enough room for speculation of certain things. And this is almost like a true crime kind of scenario. Well, it is. But so the objectivity piece is crucial here. And moving forward, we'll be able to see what is presented as evidence and what is discarded immediately. That's also why the judge has that screen there. But the objectivity is that the defense won't be able to continue to just object to everything outright. They will need their own objectivity too, instead of just saying, "Oh, I don't believe that. Oh, that's probably fake," or "Oh, what about this?" It makes things much more black and white. Okay, it makes the evidence be what it is. You have officers testifying to what has already been presented. Okay, so but the mainstream media, I don't know, they're going to try and dramatize it. I saw some comment about like Charlie's parents arriving separately from Erica's and like a lack of security, and then people are trying to talk about protests maybe happening or stoke people to come here. They're trying to dramatize this in any way they can to stir people up, other than just, hey guys, like we have the evidence, we're presenting it, boom, here it is. So back to my previous point, Bo, like I'm kind of hoping that it only takes a few days, but there's obviously much more that I don't know, that a lot of us don't know, that's going to be presented as evidence. But yes, being that it's appears to be so clear cut so far, the mainstream media, they're going to try and just dramatize it, or just definitely probably get these facial inflections in, like, oh, what's Erica doing, or what's Jack doing, or Don Jr., or what are his parents, what do they look like? Of course, they're going to try and. I honestly don't know. It'll be all over the spectrum, but yeah.
We've become, unfortunately, there's so much.
A lot of exaggeration.
It's become tabloid media. We're looking at reactions and expressions. But Benny, I want to come to you, and I don't want to ask you to say anything that you can't say, perhaps about your former employer. But considering the nature of the circumstances of that led to your departure or your dismissal because of what you did, I'll pose that same question to you. How would a network like that be covering this? Or is there going to be minimal attention upon it? Is there going to be some sort of bias against it? Will they try to minimize the alleged assassin's actions? You've been inside it. You saw how it was from that angle. So how do you think outlets like that will be covering this?
Well, Bo, I will say, I think your national networks, your ABC, NBC, your Fox, your main networks on the national level, they will be covering it. But when it comes to the drizzle down to the local affiliates all over the country, that I can't speak to, because, in my situation, what happened was, our affiliate in Illinois would not take the cut-ins from national. They would not run anything that had to do with the assassination, of Charlie. And so I think we're going to see the typical coverage that we always see. But remember, headlines that sell is what they're going to talk about. So if this is a major, if this brings big attention, which I hope it's going to, they are going to have to talk about it. And so I think we're going to see just the same type of coverage we always do. How much of the stations will take that coverage? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting.
Well,
go ahead. Yeah, Kevin, please.
Sure. So, if we look back around, the week or so after Charlie was killed, so many people were just honestly laughing about it, and and in good in a good way, we doubled back and got a lot of people, put on blast for that. But I think the mainstream media is going to try and do here is that they're just going to make it about the Second Amendment, right? Or they're going to downplay the whole communist angle of it, that is on the left, okay? Ideally, I'm saying. But, they're going to downplay the furry relationship and, like he was just a college student. They're really going to try and downplay that, but also make it about the Second Amendment and, all those just totally hideous statements that were made against Charlie blatantly after the shooting. So I wouldn't be surprised if some, left-wing major news sources would take that angle.
Okay, that's interesting. I want to take a break, but let's keep it there, because and keep that fresh in mind, is how the media may try to minimize the leftist nature of the alleged assassin and his partner. It's right. That's. I think that's your point, Kevin. Let's keep it right there, and we will take a quick break and be right back with more Human Events Daily.
Never, ever stop fighting, no matter what. We will achieve American greatness, and we are just getting started.
terms of those who were there in attendance?
So there's a lot of media here along with us, and also heavy security and police all around the courthouse. It's quiet but very powerful display of people coming, attendees and media. I mean, Jack and I got here about 8:30 this morning. Shortly afterwards, Charlie's parents showed up as well, and they came in. Erica Kirk came in accompanied by Don Jr. It was very low profile. And John has a bigger beard nowadays, and just slipped right in. It was unreported, and then he's in there. We saw Graham Allen, Brandon Tatum, several other journalists that are in this fight. So as we've seen, I mean, there's talk about potential protesters coming. May or may not happen, but so far it's been, like I said, it's been quiet but powerful, and there's a good feeling of security here, and so we'll see what develops on that front, and but yeah, we're just here to deliver the evidence as it comes out of the court here, and hopefully we can get Jack here. I do know that he does have his phone back now.
Okay.
So Jack has also been pretty integral in this, Bo.
Oh, without a doubt.
The defense also tried, as we know, that the defense tried to put a motion in that the video wouldn't be allowed in the courtroom. So Jack was one of the ones that pushed for that to happen. So, kudos to Jack on that, and to even get live stream for us to, review here. So that is very important, and we're looking forward to what he has to say shortly here. And if anything, we could get him a notebook too, because he could definitely have a notebook in there. I'm sure he's taken many mental notes. That's another aspect here. So it's open to the public, okay, and the media, but it's on a first come first served basis in the mornings. So there were about 50 people in line when we got there around 8:30, and a lot of them were younger, so I think it was probably students from UVU that were showing solidarity and unity here with the, eyewitness testimonies if need be. But also, interestingly, is so there's a potential for maybe someone like me to even be in attendance tomorrow as well, to take notes and whatnot, along with Jack. But I know he's in there. Probably in the same area as Erica and Don and Charlie's parents. So, prayers much appreciated for them. But yeah, we'll be getting updates. And then also later this evening too, we'll be doing a wrap-up show for sure. A recap every night.
Well, I hope you do get inside of that courtroom, Kevin. That would be wonderful. And it's amazing that there is press access to this. And of course, no one has their phone in there. And I understandably why that would happen. But Benny, Kevin mentioned the fact that there's a lot of young people, there's a lot of youth, as well there should be, because Charlie's audience, Turning Point USA, his whole directive was really aimed at people largely under 30 and 40 years old, people who are in high school, people who are in college. All these Turning Point USA events have been geared towards engaging the youth. And so, in my mind, America is watching, the world is watching, but young people are watching and should be watching, because this is a great example of how speech was throttled, the very thing that Charlie Kirk represented, that he stood for, which was having a civil discourse. Changed my mind. Let's have a conversation, not a monologue. I think that's something that needs to stay in the focal point as we watch the trial of this, I'm going to say alleged assassin, but I think we know all how we feel about it. But just from your vantage point, Benny, as a young woman, also a young journalist, don't you think that all people that are that whether you like Charlie Kirk, dislike Charlie Kirk, you should be paying attention to right now, because the future of speech kind of hinges in many ways upon this trial?
No, absolutely, Bo. And one of the things before we went live, I was looking at all the different live streams that were happening from Court TV to the mainstream media, all of them. I mean, each one of those had the one I was watching had 15,000 people just on that one stream watching this. So just imagine, with all the different sources now, with it being open to press, just imagine how many people's eyes are on this right now. And yes, it is summer break, so kids aren't at school, but I think that so many people are watching this. And the amount of people that I have talked to, Bo, specifically, after I was suspended from my previous job, and because of making a tribute to Charlie, so many many young people reached out to me and said, I didn't know who Charlie was, but now I do. And now I'm finally following his work and I'm watching all his videos. And so I think the amount of transparency that's going to come out of this trial, because of the amazing judge so far who is allowing those, cameras in the courtroom, I think this is how Charlie would want it. And obviously this is an awful situation. None of us want to be in this right now. But this, I feel like if Charlie was alive, this is exactly how he would want it. It's full of transparency, and the people are going to get to judge.
Yeah, certainly true. And Kevin, I want to come back to you for a moment too. One of the storylines I was following too, as we prep for the show, is that with the defense continuing to object to evidence, it does seem that the judge has given sort of a provision to attorneys, because the way the cameras are, that as evidence is presented, even though we can't see it from the camera side, that their monitors that are in front of the attorneys can be seen, and to be mindful of that, I suppose, because there are certain things that our cameras or those that are in the courtroom would be able to capture, because you can see what's on someone's screen. Have you been following that as well? Because that's something I kind of noticed that was happening, that the judge was saying.
Well, it's an interesting technicality. I was watching, in particular, the attorneys and the teams up front, as we can all see on the live stream, that they have laptops which have cameras on them, but the media can't have cell phones or cameras, and the live stream can only show the backs of their heads and not the side angle or any facial inflections that may occur, and then it is allowed on the sidewall. So it's interesting how that will play out. But yeah, that's also one of the striking things that the judge has allowed is for that as well. But, so far, like I said, we're talking, they're going over the maps of the campus layout, where the buildings were, where Tyler Robinson was on the Losi building roof. And by the way, we were just there. We were fortunate enough to have a short tour of about an hour or so of the campus when we arrived yesterday. So it was great to really pay our respects and appreciate the scene, and also get an idea of the logistics of the path Tyler Robinson would have taken and upon entrance and exit. So yeah, the side monitors will be helpful, because there is just so much evidence coming out and so much being presented by the prosecution. That's what this is this week. And so it will be helpful. I mean, we're all on our screens these days, but just because of the sheer volume of information being presented, I think it's definitely advantageous to have.
Kevin,
sure.
we know we've got the confession to the roommate, but what do you think, and and if you can get into Jack's head too, because I know you guys talk about it all the time, but what will be, do you think, the most compelling pieces of evidence that will be presented in this preliminary hearing that will be the most compelling, the most damning, the most critical to the state's case? What do you see as the things that really need to make it in order for this to be a slam dunk case?
So we have the DNA on the rifle, okay? That is one of the most damning, and also the confession, the text, okay? We have that as well. Those will be pretty substantial, but also, as we were there yesterday, there's a security camera on the corner of one of the top buildings where we have seen already when Tyler, after he takes the shot, jumps off. He kind of scurries off the edge of the building there and basically falls on the grass. So that camera's still there. So what we're hoping to see delivered is the footage before that of him on that roof, and maybe even taking the shot itself, and that would certainly be conviction that is almost undeniable at that point. So that's one thing that we're looking to see be presented for the prosecution, and as it looks now, the defense will probably even try and deny that somehow. But those few points, yeah, for sure will be sought after.
Yeah, and Benny,
as evidence.
Every criminal defendant in this country has a right to a fair trial. We know that. But when you consider the fact that of what the evidence seems to point to, which of course is that this man murdered Charlie Kirk in cold blood, He's entitled to his defense. Maybe the defense is just doing the job that they're set out to do. I often wonder how an attorney could defend someone like this. I mean, I know it's their job, but at the same time, from a moral standpoint, it seems very, very difficult. As you looked at the trial this far, and I've only caught bits and pieces of it, are you noticing any body language from Tyler Robinson? Are you seeing anything that would indicate remorse, guilt? I felt like I saw him with a pen in his hand. Anything that you're noticing thus far that sticks out to you?
No, he honestly seems just very calm, which, is kind of surprising to me when there are, some of the evidence that the prosecution has is text messages to his partner who hopefully we are going to get to hear from. And these text messages say, "I took out Charlie Kirk." And so when you have something like that and you're just sitting there, plain-faced in the courtroom, taking notes, at that point, you know what you did. And so I don't know that we're going to see a lot of him. I remember the one picture that was released or the one video and the defense, threw a fit. But to the point that Kevin was talking about the defense constantly, that they keep, objecting to every single thing. I think they realize that's what they have to do. If they have to make some sort of case, and obviously with the evidence that is going to be shown, they know they don't really have a great defense, and so they're going to continue to object. You watch the movies, you watch all the things. That's what they do. They try to throw the prosecution off the game, in my opinion, and I think they're going to continue to do that, and it's going to get a little annoying. I mean, they were literally objecting to every single thing, objecting that the pictures were not taken in the right time frame, and the prosecution used a Supreme Court decision to say, listen, we have grounds for this, and the judge is saying continue. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what the defense draws up.
Yeah, and again, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of Eric or Kirk and having to relive this. Earlier on the morning show, as we were seeing some of the developments and knowing that this was coming, just trying to imagine, having to relive your husband's death, in this way, but with the optimism of justice being served. In the cold open, we saw justice for Charlie. So, Kevin, ultimately, I suppose, and I'm asking you to look through the crystal ball here a bit, but do you think justice will be served? Do you think that the prosecution, that they have the evidence that they need, that this will go to trial, that everything will kind of tie up neatly as it should be? I'm as I was sitting there talking with Benny about Tyler Robinson and how his demeanor, I think back even to O.J. Simpson, the sort of cocky swagger that he had, which was annoying to a lot of us, that how could you do this? How could you sit there in court like this knowing that you killed your wife and and her friend? I mean, and of course we know he was acquitted in the criminal trial, but of course convicted in the civil trial. So do you ultimately believe in your heart of hearts, Kevin, that justice will prevail in this trial?
I mean, I certainly believe so, that justice will and it should and will be served. There's just an overwhelming amount. There was talk that maybe the judge, he controls the pace of this. He could very well say, "Okay, guys, we have enough evidence today," and so there's a chance it could only take a day or two.
Wow.
And it's projected to be this whole week until Friday. But I mean, it's been almost a year since Charlie got shot, and it's been all over the internet, okay? And we live in a day and age where there is so much digital footage. Everybody has a camera these days. So I originally thought, and it still might come true, that it could only take a few days here. So, but of course, it would have to go to trial. Again, this is just a preliminary hearing, so
Right.
we won't see any verdict given. And I was interested even this morning to see, like, if I could get a shot of Tyler Robinson coming in and, in shackles or in an orange jumpsuit being perp walked. But
Yeah.
that's actually not as common in Utah. There's a shackle law, it's called, where that is potentially, like, it would taint the jury or so to
okay.
seem that he was already guilty. But yeah, to his disposition and his mannerisms, it's kind of like Michael Myers, I got to say, Bo. It seems to me like just to be in there just coldly, within feet of Erica and the family. Okay, like this guy, and he's a young guy too. Like it, and just to think about him being in such a relationship with Lance Twiggs. Like this guy he's probably got a couple bolts loose, a couple screws loose up there, if you know what I mean. So it's at the same time, it's kind of not surprising to me from like a psychological standpoint. Like this guy's kind of off, okay,
Yeah.
but yeah. It's a shame to see, especially because like he's visible in the live stream too. You could see
Right?
him,
Yeah.
in the
He
shot.
just seems like he's
So-
like it's just like blood, like ice running through his veins. But maybe that's exactly the type of ice that was running through his veins when he allegedly shot Charlie, which which begs there's 50 more questions behind that. I do want to put a pin in it right here and let's hold this thought so we can take a quick break. But Kevin, you brought up an interesting point about the fact that this is a 5-day preliminary trial, but it may not even take all 5 days if the judge is satisfied with the evidence that is presented. So let's hold it right there, guys. Let's buckle up because it is going to be a heck of a 5 days. But let's keep it right there, and we'll be right back after a break.
Never, ever stop fighting, no matter what. We will achieve American greatness, and we are just getting started.
A critical hearing begins today for the man accused of assassinating conservative activist Charlie Kirk during a Turning Point USA rally last September. Prosecutors will try to convince a judge there is enough evidence for Tyler Robinson to go to trial for murder and to face the death penalty. The 5-day hearing will look like a mini trial, with prosecutors planning to share DNA evidence that allegedly links Robinson to the suspected murder weapon found at the scene, testimony from investigators, and autopsy findings.
Erica Kirk and Charlie Kirk's family released a joint statement ahead of the preliminary hearing today in UT's statement on behalf of Charlie Kirk's immediate family, his parents Robert and Catherine, his wife Erica, and his sister Mary. That statement goes on to say, quote, Charlie was a beloved husband, son, brother, friend, and father. Every court proceeding serves as a painful reminder of his death and the loss that has irrevocably impacted our lives and the lives of his children. We remain deeply grateful for the support, prayers, and kindness we have received. This outpouring has sustained us during the darkest days of our lives.
Erica Kirk and her in-laws are expected to attend a Provo court hearing for her husband's alleged killer. It's the first time we would see the family in court.
According to prosecutors, investigators recovered a rifle wrapped in a towel near campus. Robinson turned himself in the next day.
DNA consistent with defendant was found on the trigger, other parts of the rifle.
Prosecutors are expected to share that evidence again this week. They also allege Robinson confessed to his roommate with a note saying, quote, I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it.
Everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
He is a voice of reason out there that has been gunned down for daring to be an American, to tell the truth, to believe in free speech.
My husband laid down his life for me, for our nation, for our children.
When America needed a hero, God sent us a Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk is a casualty of the political war going on in this country. He was gunned down in cold blood.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done.
With a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody.
U.S. media are now reporting that the suspect is 22-year-old Tyler Robinson.
The man charged with assassinating Charlie Kirk was living with a transgender partner.
It was a family member and a family friend who helped deliver Tyler Robinson to law enforcement in Washington County.
Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist!" Catch!
He believed strongly that we could solve a lot of our differences with just a good old-fashioned conversation.
He was shot for speaking the truth. He was shot for speaking his mind. He was shot for defending the Constitution.
He didn't hate people. He didn't even hate liberals. He just hated intolerance.
He was fighting not just for his own young children, but for all of our children.
Never, ever stop fighting, no matter what. We will achieve American greatness, and we are just getting started.
Welcome to Human Events Daily. I'm Bo Davidson, filling in for Jack Posobiec. Jack is actually in Provo, Utah, within that courtroom that you've been seeing thus far all day long. This is, of course, the preliminary trial of Tyler Robinson, the alleged assassin of Charlie Kirk. And we just kind of want to set the scene for you and kind of lay out the land of what's happening today on day one. A lot of evidence being presented by the prosecution, by the state. And we've got some folks on the ground, including Kevin Posobiec is in our Utah studios. We've got Benny Harmony as well. And hopefully we'll have Jack Posobiec as well. Jack has been on the inside of that courtroom, but phones are not allowed, so he's unable to communicate with anyone, and so hopefully we will have him shortly. But in the interim, we do want to bring in Benny Harmony and Kevin Posobiec. Benny, just want to kind of get your initial thoughts to what's happened thus far. We've been seeing a lot of kind of procedural things of the state presenting evidence. I just want to get your thoughts initially on that before we go to Kevin.
Yeah, Bo, well, I started watching this right when it started this morning, and my first initial reaction was how detailed they are being and how specific they are being. I think the prosecution knows that nothing can go wrong in this trial if they want to really take this to trial. This is the pretrial before hopefully this will go to jury. So I think that every single detail is so important today. The prosecution laying that out detail by detail, not missing anything. So far, I think it's been, very, very information worthy, and having that law enforcement up on the stand just, before they went to break. I think his testimony and those testimonies of those there are just going to be huge.
Yeah, and Kevin, I know that you're in our Utah studios. Provo, Utah I know it quite well because it's the home of Angel Studios, I believe, whom we work with so often. Kevin, kind of give us your opinions on what you've seen thus far, because my understanding is that the defense has kept trying to object to a bunch of evidence, and the story thus far seems to be that the judge is overruling that every time they object. Is that a fair assessment?
It is. Judge Tony Graff is the judge for this case, and so far there's been many objections, and it's kind of ridiculous because this is the first day. These are formal proceedings, and for instance, like the map of UVU, the defense is trying to object to that. Like, how can you object to where a building is and whatnot? But yeah, that seems to be the overarching tactic the defense is using so far. But yeah, we'll see as this develops over the next few days.
What other storylines are you seeing from day one? Kevin, I did see some images of Erica Kirk coming in there. I understand Don Jr. is there. There are a number of conservative